Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Chaos Head and Noah. Let's begin, shall we? I came to the railway crossing, right next to the station. I could see the Shenzhen station platform clearly from here. There was no way a station platform could be empty, I told myself. It was just impossible. But of course, there was nobody there. I decided to wait for a train to come. If a train stopped at the station, people would surely get off. And even if nobody did, I could see somebody in the train as it went past. I waited 10 minutes and there was no sign of any train. I tried to tell myself that there might have been an accident or something that had thrown the schedule off, but there still wasn't a single person on the platform. I'm reminded of a. Keep in mind that I got this story from a YouTube video that it was explaining a story from 2 Channel, the pretty much the Japanese precursor to 4chan. And as in 4chan got like a lot of its ideas from 2 Channel. 4chan is basically a westernized version of 2 Channel, if that makes any sense. So basically, there was a story about this woman, and she found herself in a place in Japan that that had no people, and she went to a train station, also had no people. Then she went on a train, again with no people, and then she went to a place that wasn't recorded on any map whatsoever, if I'm remembering the story correctly. And the last time she was, the last time she updated her posts, like keep in mind these are 4chan posts, not 4chan posts, but 2chan posts, and it just sort of cut off after she was meeting this mysterious man on the train to this mysterious area. So yeah, then again, I could be totally wrong about the story, but that's what this is reminding me of. And I was told this story was somewhat popular in Japan. I don't remember the name of it though, but it was about again what I just told you about, like a train station and like a city with like no people whatsoever, and it seemed pretty weird. So yeah. I tried to tell myself there might have been an accident or something that had thrown the schedule off, but there still wasn't a single person on the platform. Only then I did realize the seriousness of the situation. It didn't make sense. This wasn't right. I decided to head to Shibuya Station. There was always somebody there, I was sure of that. The area around Shibuya Station was always busy, 24 hours a day. I couldn't take the fear anymore, so I started to run. I ran as fast as I could. Even when I started running out of breath, I still didn't stop. I wasn't sure if I'd ever run so hard in my entire life. As I ran, I wished this was all just some awful dream, but it wasn't. My heart and lungs were in so much pain I thought they'd explode. There was no way this pain could just be a dream. I was surprised at how intense my breathing was. No matter how much air I took in, the pain didn't go away. I headed down the Dogenzaka Hill and finally got within sight of the 107 building. By that point, my legs were barely moving. My body felt incredibly heavy, but I forced my legs to move forward. I didn't even have the strength. I didn't even have strength left for looking around me. My entire consciousness was focused on me getting to Scramble Crossing, the symbol of Shibuya. Almost there, just a bit more. I just had to make it past the 107. Then I'd be in the busiest place in Japan, the place where everyone mixes together when the walk sign changes. That's why it's called Scramble. Scramble. Empty. The whole of Scramble Crossing and Shibuya Station were empty. A world without sound. A world that was dead. The air around the crossing was always filled with a flood of sound, but today was ruled by silence. All I could hear was the sound of my own panting.
そんな
Impossible. I fell to my knees in the middle of the wide road. I couldn't take another step. But more than that, the shock had drained all the strength from my body.
ここ渋谷だろ
This is Shibuya, right? There was nobody to my left or right, or my back or front, anywhere. It was the busiest time of the week, 7 p.m. on a Saturday. What was going on here? This couldn't be happening. I closed my eyes and put my hands up to my head. This was a dream, an illusion. It couldn't be real. Sure, I thought I'd wanted to live a quiet life all by myself. I didn't want to get caught up in anything or have anyone meddle in my plans, but that didn't mean I wanted to be the only person in the world. If there were no other people, who is going to pay my living expenses? That's what you were worried about? If there were no other people, who's going to make meals I got from the convenience store? If there were no other people, who's I going to play ESO with me? Who is going to play ESO with me? If there were no other people... Sound. I heard a sound. It wasn't me. It was a sound someone else made. Someone was here. Someone else was close. I felt saved. It was just a random chance that the crossing looked empty. Nobody had actually disappeared. I hadn't been left alone in the world. I was almost ready to cry from sheer relief. I turned toward the sound.
君は
Someone in a wheelchair, it looks like. Who are you? It was a boy in a wheelchair. He was silently sitting there, some distance from me, but still in the middle of the road. It was hard to figure out how old he was. If I went just off his height, I would have thought he was in elementary school. He had a hat pulled down over his eyes, making it hard to make out his face. But
やっと会えたね
we finally meet. The boy's voice was strangely clear. It was as if it was being whispered into my ear. I actually found myself turning around to check if someone was behind me, but of course nobody was.
これどうなってるんですか
Sorry, I had to yawn. What's going on here? I asked him.
どうして誰もいないのか
Why isn't anybody else here?
君は理由を知ってますか
Do you know why?
知ってるよ
I do. His voice sounded young, but not like a
そ
child's.
れより
But more importantly,
僕のメッセージは受け取ってくれた
did you get my message? Oh no. Is Takumi on the crosswalk right now? Oh, I feel like something fucked is about to happen. Message. I didn't know what he was talking about.
誰だ君は
Who? Who are you? His wheelchair advanced forward, wheels turning just a little. It must have been an old chair because it made a crucky rusting sound. A rusty creaking sound as it went.
その目誰の
Whose eyes are those?
目でしょ
Right? I wasn't sure what to think. Why had this boy suddenly said, "Whose eyes are those" to me? Right here, right now. Who was
目
he?
覚めるんだ早く
Wake up soon.
出ないと
Otherwise,
もっとたくさんの人が死んじゃうことになるから
even more people will die.
君は一体
Who are you? I rubbed my eyes, wiping away my tears. Only then I could finally see his face. The boy wasn't a boy. His face was wrinkly like an old man. His cheeks were caved in, his eyes sank deep into his skull. The whites cloudy, he had no eyebrows, yet his body was as tiny as a child's.
僕は
I'm
将軍だよ。
Shogun. Okay, is this old man Takumi? Or maybe Yua was wrong and Shogun actually might be a different person. I don't know. Let's continue. For a moment, I forgot to breathe. My head felt like it had been hit by a hammer. The ground seemed to shake. No, it was the body that was shaking. I put a hand on the asphalt to support myself. What had he just said? Shogun. This was Shogun.
忘れないで。
Don't forget,
君は逃げちゃいけない。
you mustn't run. I looked up and saw that Shogun had already turned away from me. His wheelchair was creaking as he slowly disappeared. It didn't even occur to me to try and follow him or ask more questions, or to punch him in the face for getting me caught up in this. I wasn't any good at any of that stuff. My head was starting to hurt. I felt an aching in my temples. I stayed on the ground trying to endure the pain. Daku. The silent world began to fill with static. Who was that voice? Don't look at me. Daku. The static began to change into a voice. Somebody was putting their hand gently on my shoulder.
邪魔なんだっつうの。
Tsk, get out of the way.
何してんだろうね。
What's his problem?
最近の若いもんは
Kids, there's
なんかのパフォーマンスじゃないの？
some kind of street performance?
タク。
Daku. I looked up, still reeling from the headache. The demon girl, Remy, was leaning over me and looking down into my eyes. Okay, well, is this guy walking or is he like standing there looking at us? Like, you see this guy here, right? That I'm circling. I don't know if it's like getting the right angle in the OBS, but circling. I'm circling it on my screen. So, the demon girl, Remy, was leaning over me and looking down into my eyes. Her eyes were clear and filled with life. Those eyes stared at me and only me. Again, once again, she just shown up out of nowhere.
歩ける？歩いて。
Can you walk? Come on. She put her hands under my arms and tried to help me up. I screamed and pushed her away. Then I came to my senses and looked around. I was still in the middle of the road, but I wasn't alone anymore. There were people all around me, walking past me without the slightest bit of interest. Daku. Remy seemed like she was about to cry as she looked at me.
今は私の言うことを聞いて。
For now, just listen to me.
夜だ
Stay away from me! I screamed, the aching in my head turning into a stabbing pain. I tried to fight through the pain and crawl away from her, to put as much distance between her and me as possible.
お前だろお前が見せたんだお前の妄想だ
It was you, right? You made me see that. It was your delusion.
僕の心を支配して精神攻撃を
You control my mind. Did some kind of mental attack.
この悪魔め
You demon.
お前なんて剣で殺してやる
I'll kill you with my sword.
ベースに帰れば僕にはリソ
If I can just get back to the base, I've got a D-sword. I felt a sudden shock on my chest. It stung and started to feel hot. Remy had slapped me. This time, she was going to kill me. I tried to crawl away as fast as I could, but Rimi easily grabbed my hand. She pulled me close with a strength that was hard to believe a girl could have. Okay, what's happening? What? And held me tight. Her soft body pressed against me gently. It was so warm, and I could smell just the slightest hint of sweat. Her long flowing hair tickled my nose.
しっかりして。
Calm down. It was the last thing I expected her to say. I could feel the strength leave my body.
ここにいたら危ないよ。
It's dangerous to stay here. Her voice sounded a little sad. I couldn't tell if she was crying.
信号赤になっちゃってるから。
Look, the crosswalk signal's red. I wasn't sure what to think. Wasn't she here to kill me? Why was she saving me? Wasn't that hallucination of people disappearing from Shibuya something she'd forced me to see? Once I'd felt this gentle warmth from her, once she'd held me in her innocent arms, how could I still be sure? How could I stop myself from thinking that maybe Rimi Sakihata wasn't a demon at all? Was I just a fool? Was I falling for her tricks? The one thing I could be sure of was that I felt so safe and peaceful in her arms. What was this strange feeling? Rimi let go, and then put her hands up to my cheeks, and looked me in the face. Her eyes were a little
お願
red.
い。
Please,
今は私についてきて
just for now, follow me,
いい？
okay? I nodded. We were standing in the middle of the now empty crosswalk. People on both sides of the roads were staring at us as they waited for the light to change. I could hear laughter starting to bubble up from the crowd. The cars had their headlights pointing at me and were starting to honk their horns. Rimi held my hand tightly and started to turn toward the sidewalk. I followed along, letting her pull me forward. We managed to make it through the noise of the horns to the sidewalk. Rimi let out a sigh of relief and stopped. She was still holding my hand. Just touching her made me feel calmer and calmer. It made me want to give in to the feeling and stay like this forever. Rimi turned toward me.
無事でよかったね。
I'm glad you're safe. She looked so happy. I couldn't believe that the look on her face might be a lie or an act. But
話してよ。
let me go. I thought of her as my enemy for so long. I thought of her as a demon. If I gave in, I'd cease to be me. That's how it felt, at least.
あ、ごめんごめん。
Oh, sorry. She let go.
それにしてもびっくりした。タクが道の真ん中でうずくまってるんだもん。
You surprised me, though, just lying out there in the middle of this road like that.
信号が赤になった時はどうなることかと。
I was so worried when the light turned red. She sounded happy. I turned away. I started to push through the crowds and walk forward.
僕帰る。
I'm going home.
じゃあ送るよ。具合悪いんでしょ。
Oh, then I'll walk you home. You're not feeling well, right? I could hear chasing after me, but I shook my head no.
タク。
Daku. The cheerfulness in her voice had vanished. I felt really bad since she just saved me, so...
ありがとう。
Thank you. I just barely managed to squeak out the words. I certainly didn't think they'd end up merging all three of the task forces into one. Yusuji Ban sighed bitterly to himself as he looked at the rows of detectives assembled in the Shibuya police station's large conference room. The Inokashira line Shibuya Station bathroom murder, what the media had taken to calling vampirer, had pushed the Shibuya police's available manpower to its absolute limits. And with 3 bizarre murders in the same district, it was looking more and more likely that a single culprit was responsible for all of them. Some officers had suggested leaving the Cornelius Tower suicides to the Youth Crimes Division, but the media was treating them as a part of New Gen. And they'd take a lot of flack if it seemed like they were leaving it out. It was only natural that HQ would decide to bring the task forces together into one big team. Right now, the new, bigger group was going back over each of the cases individually. There was a big screen at the front of the room showing slides of the crime scene. Sua had been assigned to give the briefing on them. He and Ban had been up all night frantically going through the case files for all 4 cases. Good luck, kid, Ban said to himself, resting his hand in his palm.
コーネリアスタワー集団投身自殺事件の発生は9月7日っす。です。
The Cornelius Tower group suicide took place on September 7th.
ニュージェネとマスコミが故障している4つの事件の中では一番最初に発生してます。
This was the first of the 4 cases that the media referred to as the New Gen murders.
午後11時半ごろ、渋谷コーネリアスタワー屋上のヘリポートから男女5人が転落。全員死亡しました。
At around 11:30, a group of 5 boys and girls fell from the Cornelius Tower heliport. They all died on impact.
5人は全員未成年の高校生。男が3人、女が2人。ただし、5人のうち男女1人ずつだけが同じ学校なだけで、それ以外の3人はいずれも別の学校でした。
Okay, that's interesting. They were all minors, high school kids. 3 boys, 2 girls. 2 of them, a boy and a girl, went to the same school. The rest all attended different schools. Okay, so that may or may not be important.
5人それぞれの爪の間にわずかな肉片が残っており、手のひらに引っかき傷があったことが司法解剖で判明しました。
Autopsies showed that they all had small fragments of flesh under their nails and scratch marks on their palms.
そこから5人は互いに手をつないだ状態で転落したと推測されます。
We can conclude from this that they likely held hands as they fell.
屋上には遺書らしきものはなし。
There was no sign of any suicide note left behind on the roof.
被害者5人は学校帰りに待ち合わせてコーネリアスタワーへ向かったようです。
The 5 of them seem to have met after school and headed to Cornelius Tower.
なお、事件性があることを示す根拠としては、コーネリアスタワー屋上が関係者以外立ち入り禁止であったことが挙げられます。
As for the question of whether this was a homicide, it's worth noting that the Cornelius Tower roof is off limits to visitors.
事件があった時間、屋上への扉は施錠されており、その扉のドアノブに被害者5人の指紋は付着してませんでした。
At the time of the incident, the door to the roof was locked, and no fingerprints from the victims were found on the doorknob. Okay. So, those kids somehow made it onto the roof, and then they fell. They somehow made it onto the roof, not through the locked door, because there's no fingerprints, or maybe they had gloves of some kind, I don't know. But that seems very weird and suspicious. I'm thinking they're gonna go into the supernatural element there.
また、5人の遺品からも扉の鍵は見つかっていません。
None of the deceased had a key on their bodies when they'd been found either.
このことから、被害者以外の第三者が事件前後にその現場にいた可能性があります。
This implies that a third party besides the victims was present at the scene.
その第三者が扉の鍵を持っており、事件前、あるいは事件後に鍵を閉めて立ち去ったという線で捜査を続けています。
Our current assumption is that this third party had the key to the door and locked the door and left either before or after they jumped.
コーネリアスタワーのホテル従業員全員への聞き取り調査は終了。ほぼ全員にアリバイがありました。今はタワーに入っている企業の社員に話を聞いているところです。
We've questioned every employee at the Cornelius Tower Hotel. Almost all of them had an alibi, and we're now talking to the employees of the companies that are located in the tower.
被害者たち5人には今のところ自殺する理由は見つかっていません。
None of the 5 victims have any motive for suicide that we've been able to find.
家族、友人、学校の教師など5人中4人の関係者が口を揃えて自殺する理由などないと断言してます。
We have testimony from family, friends, and teachers for 4 of the 5 that they would have absolutely no reason to kill themselves. The slide had changed, moving to the second case, the murder of the college kid and an unborn baby under the Shibuya station tracks. Yeah, I see it now. I see it. That's genuinely disgusting, honestly. Just
続いて通称妊娠男事件についてですが、
As for this case, which they are calling the pregnant man,
事件発生は9月19日、通称集団ダイブ事件から12日後。
it took place on September 19th, 12 days after what's been determined the school dive.
第一
I
発
mean, the
見者は
group dive.
現場近くのカラオケ店店員。遺体発見は午前5時前後。
It was a worker at a local karaoke place who discovered the body. They found it at approximately 5 a.m.
被害者は渋谷区在住の大学3年生、近衛千鶴21歳。
The victim was one Shuzuo Konoe, a third-year college student in Shibuya. He was 21 years
発
old.
見された時にはすでに死亡してました。
The victim was deceased at the time he was found.
死亡推定時刻は遺体発見の約4時間前、19日の午前1時頃です。
Estimated time of death is around 1 a.m. on the 19th, 4 hours before the body was discovered.
遺体は腹部が不自然に大きく膨れ上がっており、中から胎児が発見されました。
The victim's stomach was abnormally bloated. An unborn baby was found within it.
司法解剖の結果、被害者は生きたまま腹部を何者かに切開され、胃の中に胎児を入れられたようです。
An autopsy revealed that someone had opened the victim's chest while he was still alive and put the baby inside his stomach.
胎児はすでにその時点で亡くなっていたと思われます。
The infant was likely deceased at the time.
被害者が死亡したのは腹部を縫合された後、縫合した部分をかきむしったり、縫合糸を一部引きちぎった形跡が見られました。
The victim would have died after his belly was sewn back together. We found indications that he'd ripped at the stitches and torn some of the thread.
胎児は妊娠8ヶ月ぐらいの状態で、母親の体から帝王切開で取り上げられたと考えられます。
The baby would have been in its 8th month of development, and we believe it was removed from the mother's body via C-section.
胎児の母親については今のところ見つかってません。その生死についても不明です。
For now, we know nothing about the mother, not even whether she's dead or alive.
DNA 鑑定の結果、胎児と被害者には血縁関係はありませんでした。
DNA analysis revealed that the baby and victim had no genetic relationship.
ちなみに胎児の血液型は B 型、被害者の血液型は A 型です。
For what it's worth, the baby had blood type B. The victim had blood type A. Are blood types going to be important? Because earlier in the game, it mentioned that there was a shortage of type B blood, right? And multiple times after the first hospital scene and after the 4th case, it mentioned they are missing, like there was a huge shortage of type B blood. And again, they just mentioned that for some reason the baby had type B blood. So I'm thinking type B blood has something to do with this. So Suwa paused to take a breath, talking so much it tired him out, it looked like. Giving a presentation in front of as many older detectives was probably nerve-wracking too. Yeah.
次に第3の事件、丸山町貼り付け殺人事件です。
Now on to the third incident, the crucifixion murder at Muramacho. Muya. Shut up, T-Mobile. Anyway, there was a slight pause before a crucified slide came up.
これが現場写真です。
Okay, it looks way more cleaned up. Like, what? Okay, this is a shot of the scene.
事件発生は9月29日。被害者は太田久志、56歳、都東大学教授。
This one took place at September 29th. The victim was one Hiyashi Ota, age 56, a professor at Todai University.
第一発見者は現場のすぐ近くのアパートに住む男性。
A man who lived in a nearby apartment was the one to find the body.
被害者の死因は絞殺でした。
The
殺
co-
害された後で10本程度の釘を使って貼り付けにされていました。
the cause of death was strangulation. After death, he was nailed to the wall with 10 or so stakes.
見ての通り、遺体には外傷はほとんどありません。
As you can see, there are few wounds on the body itself.
釘についても貼り付けは一部肉体を貫通しているものもありましたが、基本的には衣服を通して貼り付けられている状態です。
While some of the stakes did go through flesh, they were primarily nailed through his clothes. Wait a sec. Was all the blood a delusion? Because again, I mentioned a bit earlier, like it looks way less bloody than it does here. So like I'm thinking what Takumi saw is that he was adding details that weren't there, like the blood and yeah, something is not right here. Just I do have a feeling that Takumi might have murdered the guy, and for some reason Rimi is now a part of it. Like Rimi being an actual person throws like a wrench in my thoughts, because one thing I thought of was Takumi totally murdered this guy, but I'm not entirely sure now, because we did see Rimi, but that was back when I thought she was like a mind form or something like that. But I think Takumi killed the guy. Anyways.
マスコミでは貼り付け、血の惨劇などと謳われてますが、出血は全くなし。
Yeah. The media is calling it the bloody crucifixion, but there was no blood loss whatsoever in the victim.
釘はドイツのクロイツナーゲル社が販売している特徴的な長い十字架のような杭です。
The nails were cross-shaped stakes sold by a German company named Kreuznagel. Kreuznagel.
犯人が十字架型をあえて選んだということから、宗教的な側面からも捜査を進めてます。
The choice of a cross-shaped nail is a distinctive one, and we're currently looking into any religious connections.
事件の起きた21時から21時半の間に、現場周辺で壁に杭を打ち付ける音が数十分続いていたという証言が複数得られました。
Well, I mean, if it was a crucifixion, right? He's like doing the Jesus pose, but you know, a crucifixion was a basically you nail someone to a board like in a cross shape, right? And then you hang them up for days on end, and that's what Jesus Christ experienced, and that's why the cross is the Christian religious symbol that is again utilized by most Christian sects. So I mean, a crucifixion, you know, like cross-shaped stakes. I don't think it's. I mean, it could be religious. I feel like it's a bit of, how to say it, irony. I think it might be some irony there. Well, I don't know. Then again, the problem with it being Takumi is, why would Takumi even do this? So, yeah, there's so much going on right now. I'm just like, whoa. The incident occurred between 9 and 9:30 p.m. We have reports from residents that of all that they heard, we heard from residents of that they heard the sounds of nails being pounded into a wall for at least 10 to 20 minutes.
被害者の死亡推定時刻がほぼそれと同じ時間であることから、おそらく被害者は現場かそのすぐ近くで殺害されたと思われます。
Since this matches the estimated time of death, we can assume the victim was killed at the spot, or failing that, somewhere nearby.
また信憑性は怪しいですが、事件現場で私立水明学園の女生徒を見たという証言も上がってます。
We also have an unreliable report of a sighting of a female Suime Academy student somewhere in the area.
最後に井の頭線渋谷駅トイレ殺人事件、通称ヴァンパイア事件です。
Lastly, the Inokashira Line Shibuya Station bathroom murder, aka Vampire.
事件発生は10月10日。遺体発見は午前5時半頃、駅員が発見しました。
This one happened on October 10th. It was found at approximately 5:30 a.m. A station employee was the first to find it.
被害者の身元は今のところ不明。身元を示すような遺留品は一切ありませんでした。
We know nothing about the victim for the moment. They didn't have any kind of identification for them. Yeah, plus how are you supposed to identify that? Like that is green skin. Like, and a lot of it looks like to be melted away and stuff, and like you'd have to go into the mouth and like, you know, match dental records or something like that. Because like a lot of the skin looks unnatural. It looks melted. It's like, did someone pour acid on this guy? Like, what on earth? Plus, there's like blood everywhere.
死亡推定時刻は前日の午前10時から午後6時の間。
Time of death could be anywhere from 10 to 6 p.m. the day prior.
遺体の血液はすべて抜かれており、まるでミイラのような状態で放置されていました。
The body was drained of blood and looked something like a mummy.
ご存知の通り、この写真が何者かによって撮影され、遺体発見より15分ほど前にインターネットのオークションに出品されており、
As you're aware, this photo was taken by an unknown party and uploaded to an internet auction site approximately 15 minutes before the body was found. Ban grimaced a little as he listened to the explanation. Was this the killer's way of saying that death had become fashion or something? Chapter 3 Shogun finished. Chapter 4 D-Sword. Alright, I'm going to continue a bit more. So, Sign City was a pair of buildings located just south of Shibuya Scramble Crossing. The east building was located next to Shibuya Station. There was a small plaza just inside the entrance, which was often used as a meeting spot, even if it wasn't as famous as the Hachiko or Moyai statues. A dozen or so people were in there now, waiting and playing on their phones. With their phones. One of them was standing alone with a curiously stern expression on her face. She was a teenage girl named Sena Aoi. Aoi. If you went down the escalator on the second floor of Sign City, the one that led away from the Inokashira line station, you would see her there, leaning against a white pillar, watching her surroundings carefully. Despite her stern expression and the season, she was nibbling on a popsicle. It was kind of cute in a way. Of course, she wasn't waiting for anyone. She was quietly observing the people coming and going around her. From where she was sitting, you could see all the way to the big TVs at Scramble Crossing. They were showing a promo for some famous singer. At the bottom of the screen was a rolling line of text talking about the New Gen murders. Not a day went by when she didn't see something about New Gen. The TV, the papers, the net, the magazines, even the big TVs in the city. Sena wasn't interested in them at all, but walking through Shibuya, she would often hear people talking about the murders. Whose eyes are those? Lately, she's been seeing people wearing t-shirts with that question printed across their fronts. It had gotten its start as an underground meme in Shibuya, and now it was getting out of control. Somebody at Harajuku gift shop had started selling t-shirts, and they sold pretty well. At least, that's what she'd heard, a smiling man say as he passed by her on the street. It was a good sign of how little people cared about anything but themselves. Senna gave a little snort of contempt before she ate the last bite of her popsicle. She closed her eyes, the stern expression still on her face. She listened to the noise of the city. On Sundays, the area around the station was filled with many different sounds. Trains rattling into the station, taxi horns, people talking as they walked, music from the big TVs and inside the shops at Sign City, announcements endlessly telling you how to safely ride an escalator. The sounds never stopped. As soon as one ended, another took its place, all the distinct sounds layered together into a dissonant jumble of static. Senna focused on the noise, directing her attention to the people's voices. Her brain shut out any other sound, so she could hear the words clearly.
結局全部同じ犯人なのかな。
違うってニュースで言ってたぞ。手口が違いすぎるって。なんかわかねえバンドの歌詞と一緒らしいじゃん。ファンタズムな。お前のバンド知らないなんてさ。CD 貸せよ。くれてるよな。
ほらこれ見てくれ。この前買って超ゲルのメタル結構来るじゃね。マジで来てるやつ初めて見た。でもあれじゃね。これってニュージェネの犯人に殺してくださいってアピールしてるようなもんじゃん。俺もいよいよ全国デビューか。
最近渋谷超怖いわ。マジうざいやるけでも何をそういうクラスで殺される可能性あるじゃない。おじさんとかキモい男とかだけ殺してほしいよね。マジ応援する。
Yep, Senna. Yeah, I didn't read any of that because, frankly, where would I even start with that? Anyways, Senna let out a little grunt. She stopped listening almost immediately. The noise offered her nothing useful. In the end, the noise was just noise. The sensation of being watched. Am I imagining it? Senna looked around one more time. For a while now, she'd had this awful feeling, like a cold finger running down her spine. Someone's gaze was upon her, but she couldn't find out who it was. Senna stepped away from the pillar she'd been leaning up against. And then, as if she just remembered what she was holding it, she stared down at the popsicle stick in her hand. Not a winner, huh? She looked even more upset as she walked away towards the station. Why is that sky so blue, like it makes you want to cry? Because that's what I wished for. I didn't wish for it. I did. Alrighty then. This is your mental world, but it's mine too. Hey. Where can I find that sky? Anywhere if you wish for it. Is it okay for me to wish? Sierra-tan was calling me. Yesterday's Blood Tune was such a great episode. Sierra-tan had a lot of cool scenes, and there was also a sexy kiss. The animation quality was top-notch, too. Sierra-tan was calling me, and being super moe about it, too. I had no choice but to get up. I ripped off the covers and got off the sofa with a moan. Oh, I gotta get up now. Did you see something about samurai? It'd be nice to know what the she's saying. Anyways, I hit the switch on the I hit the switch on the alarm. Sierra's voice abruptly stopped. Good morning, Sierra. My Sierra voice alarm was a treasure of mine. If you didn't flip the switch, the volume would get gradually louder and louder before switching to an intense buzzer sound. I wanted to start my morning waking up with Sierra-tan, which meant I always tried to flip the switch before the buzzer sounded. It had only ever failed twice. Waking up with Sierra-tan always put me in a good mood. Well, no, actually playing games all night and sleeping on the hard sofa made me feel like crap, but having Sierra-tan wake me up did make a little bit of the pain go away. Today was a school day. I'd missed a full day last week, and it was starting to throw off my schedule. I was supposed to only go twice this week, but thanks to that, I'd have to go 3 times. I didn't want to go, but I had to. Any more skipping and I couldn't graduate. To be honest, even if I couldn't graduate, it couldn't make that big of a difference to me. I just had a dream about Remy. It was a strange dream. Somehow nostalgic, somehow lonely, somehow sad, and somehow incredibly distant. I wondered if she was coming to school today. I spent a lot of time thinking about what happened 2 days ago. I spent so much time thinking about it that it cut into my ESO time. I didn't think much about Shogun or the delusion of the empty Shibuya. They didn't seem all that important to me. All of it was most likely just a delusion of mine. It was hard to believe that Shogun would be an old man like that, and thinking back, the idea of every single person disappearing from Shibuya just seemed silly. It was a very realistic delusion, but I found myself embarrassed by how easily I'd believed something so impossible could happen. What was more important was Remy, the girl I'd called the demon girl until just a bit ago. In that place where it felt like a strange floating dream, she'd held me tight. I could still remember the feeling of her body. If she hadn't done that, I might have gone crazy. Why had Remy saved me? Was it because we were friends? I didn't have any memories at all of us being classmates since our first year, or of going to see a movie with her and Misumi. But the way she treated me was the way you treat a good friend. Yeah, I'm thinking we were Mandela. I'm thinking, anyways. When she'd held me tight, she looked a little like she was about to cry. That, at least, didn't seem like an act she was putting on. I never met a girl who'd cry over a creepy otaku like me. After seeing it, the fear and suspicion I'd felt was just blown away. In fact, I almost felt like I could fall in love with her, though I stopped myself from going that far. What I felt most was uncertainty. How should I face Remy from here on out? Was she my friend or my enemy? Was she responsible for the New Gen murders? It was an undeniable fact that she'd saved me. But it was also true that I'd seen her covered in blood at the site of the crucified murder. I stopped at Shoto Park on my way to school. Ever since the incident with Yua, I'd quit my habit of eating breakfast here. The idea that Yua could be out there somewhere watching me made it impossible to enjoy my meal. And even worse, if she came to talk to me, I'd have to listen to a bunch of more delusional nonsense. I didn't have time to deal with her. Yua works for Remy. That was my original idea, but it may have been wrong. That didn't mean that Yua wasn't an enemy, though. Maybe Shogun was the big boss and Yua was working for him. Whichever the case, it'd be best if I stayed away from her. But today, I'd come here for some reason anyway. I looked around carefully to make sure Yua was nowhere to be seen. Then I slowly sat down on my bench. I took a bite out of the chocolate pastry I'd bought at the convenience store and looked out at the lake. There was barely any wind, and the water's surface was still and calm. Once in a while, I can see what might be a cart moving through the cloudy water. There was nobody in the park today, which was rare. It was a very quiet space. As I looked around the park, I found myself thinking about Remy again. To be honest, I'd almost decided not to go to school today, just to avoid facing her again. That's why I'd come here to the park to buy some time. It felt like I said all kinds of awful things to her, but she'd always smiled and been kind to me. And I was sure if I went to school again, she'd come up to talk to me like she always did. She'd pretend it, she'd pretend that that what we experienced in front of the 107 had never happened. She'd smile and treat me like a friend. Part of her constantly cheerful nature did seem a little obnoxious, but it also felt like if I stayed with her, I might start to feel cheerful too. What should I say when I meet her? I didn't think of her as a demon anymore, but it was also true that I didn't think of her as a friend. Misumi had said that she and I have been friends and classmates for over a year and a half, but I had no memories of that at all. Maybe something had broken within me after all. But could my memories of Remy disappear while everything else remained intact? Was that possible? Yep. I'm going to... Actually, I'm not going to save here. I'm going to stop recording, and then I'm going to record the next episode. So, thanks for watching. It's been the Autist. See you later. I'm going to record the next episode now. Bye!